Hello everyone. In this video we're going to be looking at the information that's found in Chapter 2, Section 2.7 of your textbook, Adding Fractions. We're going to be looking at adding different types of fractions. One of the first types we're going to be looking at is the steps when you're adding like fractions. Keep in mind that the definition of like fractions means that the denominators are the same. We're also going to take a look at the steps for adding unlike fractions, which basically means your denominators are different. And then finally, we're going to look at the steps involved for adding mixed numbers. So each of these are a little bit different, so I'm going to go through each process. With the first one here, steps for adding like fractions when they're like, it's fairly simple. You add the numerators and you place your total over the original denominator. You do reduce to lowest terms or change to a change an improper fraction to a mixed number. If that's the case, that's how you answer with fractions. So let's take a look, and we're going to do the like fractions that I have here. So we see our denominators are the same. As soon as you see that, you want to immediately put that denominator. So 1/4 plus 2/4, 4 is your denominator, and then we're going to add 2 plus 1, which gives us 3. So then let's go ahead, we'll look at the second one here. Again, we have all 9s as the denominator, meaning that they're like fractions. So 9 is going to be our denominator. Then we're going to go ahead and add our numerators. We get 8 plus 4 is 12, plus 1 is 13. So our answer is 13/9. However, as you look at this, you realize, oh, okay, we have an improper fraction. So what we need to do is we have to go ahead and we're going to change this to a mixed number. So we know that 9 goes into 13 one time. We're going to subtract 9 from there, and our answer is 4. So then what happens, if you remember from when we had talked about changing improper fractions to mixed numbers, the remainder here, 4, becomes our numerator, and then our denominator remains the divisor, which is 9. It stays the same. So those are our steps for solving like fractions. Fairly straightforward. It's when we come to unlike fractions that we have to use some of those methods that I had talked about in the previous video. So what we're going to do first is we can do one of the 3 methods to go ahead and get the lowest common denominator. I first want to check and see if 3 can divide evenly into 7. It cannot. Now I could write out all my multiples of 3. I could write out all my multiples of 7. But for purposes of time, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use method 3. And I'm going to multiply my denominator. So I get 7 times 3 equals 21. Now, we're back to raising those fractions to higher terms, which we had reviewed as well. We say 3 times what number gives us 21? Well, we know it's 7. So whatever we do to the denominator, we have to make sure we do the numerator. So we have 2 times 7 is 14. And then 7 times what number gives us 21? We know it's 3. So then we get 5 times 3 is 15. So now we're back to having like denominators. So we can go ahead and add those. And we end up with 21 as our denominator. And then we add 14 to 15 gives us 29. But again, we know because it's an improper fraction, we can't leave it that way. So I'm going to go ahead and I am going to divide 21 into 29. Goes in one time. And we end up with a remainder of 8. We go ahead then, and if you remember, 8 becomes our new numerator, and 21 is our denominator. So we check to see if that can reduce anymore. It cannot, so we know that our answer is 1 and 8/21. So then we're going to go ahead now and look at mixed numbers. And again, the steps for that, we have to go ahead, first of all, we're going to deal with our fractions first. After that, then we'll deal with the whole numbers. So looking at this problem right here, I'm just going to go ahead, I'm going to move my 3 over, and I'm going to move my 4 over. And that way they're done, taken care of. We don't have to worry about the whole numbers right now. What we need to do is get our fractional parts to be like denominators. How do we do that? Let's use method 1. If you remember, I had said, first thing you do, look to see if one of your denominators can divide evenly into the other denominator. In this case, it can. 4 can divide evenly into 8 twice. So actually, we know that 8 is our lowest common denominator. So now we have to think about 8 times what number gives us 8? It's 1. So 1 times 1 is always 1. Notice they don't change. Here though, 4 times what number gives us 8? It's 2. So we have to multiply the 3 by 2 because again, with fractions, whatever you do to the top number, you always have to do to the bottom. So we get 3 times 2 is 6. So if we add those together, we get 6 plus 1 is 7. And our denominators stay the same because they're like denominators. And then we'll go ahead now and add our mixed numbers. We get 3 plus 4, which is 7. So then our answer for this problem is 7 7/8. So that gives a nice review of how to add different types of fractions.